Good morning, folks. How y'all doing? Wow, kind of crazy. Had my video follow up with the VA this morning, so uh, things are going okay. Still some things to work on. That's life. Um, but anyway, today I wanted to talk a little bit about how I ended up with photography. Um, I had planned on being in the military. In fact, if I had been going, things had been going to plan, I would still be in the Army right now. Um, but due to medical considerations, that just wasn't possible. So, um, I didn't have any real plans when the Army medically retired me. I really didn't have any plans on what I was going to be doing. And that was one of the biggest shocks of the whole thing was to find out all of a sudden I'm being sent home from Korea, to San Antonio, Texas, when my follow-on orders had been for Fort Hood. So all the planning we had done had been for Killeen. It hadn't been for San Antonio. So all of a sudden, Jessica's having to scramble to get some things figured out and find a place for us to live and everything else. And, here I am, packing up, checking out, and getting out of Korea. And then I get home and start the process for my medical retirement. And, the Army's like, so what are you going to do now? And I'm like, I really hadn't thought about it. I already had a bachelor's degree in English, but I knew that my temperament, after some of the things that I've dealt with and everything else, just really, really wasn't going to be conducive to trying to be a teacher, which had been my original thought for a fallback after getting out of the military, was to teach English. But yeah, that was not a workable plan. No, it wasn't. So, I was left with, well, what am I going to do now? So, I did have my GI Bill benefits. I did have my VA benefits for Voc Rehab. So I used those benefits and enrolled at the Art Institute of San Antonio, and I loved it. I've always kind of had a thing for photography. I remember my dad teaching me with his old manual everything 35 millimeter film Pentax camera, and in a way, there's things about that manual focus system that they had where it was basically the way it helped you line hit your focus point. Kind of wish there was a way to incorporate that into a digital camera. I'm sure there is. I'm gonna have to, Sony, are you listening? But I've always liked photography. I did photography for the school newspaper and the yearbook when I was in high school. I've always kind of been a hobbyist with it. So, yeah, I went into this with, some hope about it and everything. And then, of course, I graduate and I find out that, learning to be a photographer and then developing a clientele to where you are a working photographer, very different things. My plan had been to work, like I've said before, my plan had been and still is to primarily work with small businesses and helping them provide the types of images they need to catch people's attention online. But unfortunately, I was struggling with a lot of things with my mom passing, and then a year later, my youngest brother passing, and then last year my dad passed. I was in a very dark place. I was battling depression. It was ugly. I can say that if it wasn't for my wife and kids, I'm not sure I'd still be here. It had gotten that hard for me. But I managed to get through that. And of course, by the time I'm getting through all that and getting my feet back underneath me, COVID rolls around. And of course, that blows a huge hole in my plans to try to start doing things, because a lot of the businesses that I wanted to work with were struggling. They weren't really able to afford doing, the photography. So I'm left with, okay, I have these skills, I have this equipment, but I'm having trouble making money with it. So I've got to, I've got other things that I'm working on now, but I still need to have money coming in. So started looking at home business, and a friend of Jessica's, Hi Joy, shared an idea with her, and she shared it with me, and then I've started working for myself, in an additional way to being a photographer and an artist, and discovering the joys and challenges of entrepreneurship. Yeah, there's but anything worth doing in life, there's going to be challenges. And even though I'm finding sometimes it to be kind of a struggle, nothing compared to struggling with the depression that I had been in, and the pain I had felt with losing my mother. We saw that coming. She'd been dealing with cancer for a while, but it was still hard. And then a year after that, my youngest brother dies in a car accident. And, I was the soldier. I was the one that went to war and everything. I figured that I was not going to be, I figured I'd be the first one out of my out of the three of us, my brothers and I, to die, and it didn't turn out that way, and it was very, very difficult. When someone's ill and they're battling an illness, you have time to prepare yourself for it. I'm not saying that it's easy. I'm not saying that it doesn't still have its own struggles and everything with it, but it's manageable. And when you have someone who dies unexpectedly in a car accident, a soldier goes off to war and they're in the front line kind of jobs. It's one of those things that's not necessarily unexpected. But, the out of the blue traffic accident kind of thing, it floored me. And then my dad had been having his own battles with another type of cancer, and that eventually took its toll on him. But it was quick, I would say, toward the end. He was able to stay fairly active and vibrant. And I think he kind of knew it was getting close, because he had some conversations with me where he wanted to make sure I understood things. And, but yeah, I miss my parents. I miss my brother. But my wife and kids, they've kept me going. And that's why I had to find something to do. And, reinventing yourself after a career like the military is always a challenge. Ask any veteran. And then, having what I wanted to do not be able to materialize the way I wanted it to, that became another challenge. So I still have things that I'm doing with my photography, but they're more long term. They're things that are investments in time and effort and money right now that will hopefully pay dividends in the future with gallery shows and photo books and maybe offices that decide they like my work and want to have a series for their office decor. But in the meantime, I gotta have some money coming in, so I had to keep looking and find something, and I think I found what I was looking for. So but it's one of those things that you have to realize that struggles come and go. The challenges we face will come and go. There will always be another challenge afterward. The big thing is in your character is that you strive to overcome those challenges. If life gets hard, you got to shoulder into it and keep going. And believe me, I am one person who knows how hard that can be and how ugly it can get mentally and emotionally. Trying to deal with those kind of things. But I'm still here today. I'm still kicking. And if you're watching this, so are you. So you may be facing some challenges. They'll help make you stronger for things in the future. The big question is you don't judge yourself for where you've been, because that's nonsense. The biggest thing to worry about is realizing the truth about where you are, and then deciding where do you go from here. Because where you've been, okay, that gives you perspective, that gives you understanding. Where you are now, though, you need to really understand where you are. Because if you don't have think about it like a map. If you don't know where you are exactly on a map, that map, which is basically what you're using to plan where you go, isn't going to be able to help you. Because if you don't know where you are, then if you're using the wrong starting point, then the directions that you're using aren't going to get you where you want to go. So make sure that you figure out where you are and be real with yourself. You don't have to be real with anybody else, but be real with yourself. And then once you figure that out, figure out where you want to go. Because if you know your start point, you know your end point, the steps in between become easy to define and easy to achieve. And they are steps. I mean, it's a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So don't worry if you got 1,000 miles to go and you're just on your first 4 or 5 steps. The people that have walked 1,000 miles put in the steps to get where they are, and you can too. So that's my thoughts for today. As always, peace, love, and photography. And remember, everything can make a beautiful image, including you. Have a great day.